Hello everyone, my name is Whisper the Wolf, and today I will be reading you all The Walking Dead, Chapter 6 of The Walking Dead Hope, which is the Walking Dead fanfiction written by Goofy Gomez from Wattpad. Goofy Gomez, if you're watching this, thank you very, very much for giving us permission to read your story. Now, this was narrated by the Queen of Lions. Probably she finished that just yesterday, and the rest of my friends have read it, and Sonic introduced me to the sixth chapter. I decided, I might as well give this chapter a read. Speaking of which, let's not waste any more time, and let's get reading. Come on, you could do better than that. Javier's taunts kept coming from the pitcher's mouth, a smug grin on the old baseball player's face. Louis was at the home plate on the makeshift baseball pitch. He had Javier's metal bat in his hands. After the grueling 3 weeks of training, Javier suggested a little rest would do him good. Clem and Gabe sat at the stands, watching the men practice. Having just missed 3 swings in a row, Louis rolled his eyes. He gripped the handle from the bat firmly, his knuckles white from the pressure. Raising it over his head, he nodded at Javier. I'll get it this time, he assured the man. Javier nodded and threw back his arm, ready to pitch. Before the ball flew through the air, blinding pain shot up Clem's abdomen, lodging itself by her pelvis. She doubled over in pain, clenching her stomach. She barely heard the distinctive metal sound when Louis finally hit the ball and it flew over Javier's head. A hand gripped her shoulder. Hey, you okay, Clem? Gabe asked, concern in his voice. Clementine managed to compose herself, straightening her back and breathing deeply. She nodded and looked at Gabe, who was frowning. With the best smile she could muster, she said, Yeah, I think I may have caught a bug or something. You should go have that checked out by Eleanor, he suggested, eyeing her up and down. I'll be fine, Gabe, she assured him, rolling her eyes. Her stomach betrayed her words as another pain made her flinch. He's right, Clem, Louis's voice came from in front of them. He was leaning against the stands, Javier's bat forgotten by the plate. You might be getting sick, he added, winking at her conspicuously. She pursed her lips, but agreed nonetheless. It wouldn't do to actually getting sick with the baby on the way, dismissing Gabe's hand when he tried to help her up. Clementine led the 3 men at the stands and started walking down the street. Her hurried pace drew a few heads in her direction. The presents had been accepted by practically everyone, some of them even offering them a small welcome present. Apparently any friend of Javier's was a friend of theirs. She spotted a big white tent from up ahead, its red cross looming over the crowded street. As she got to the door, she spotted a woman with deep gray eyes staring at her from behind a column. When they locked eyes, a woman sprinted off through the alley at full speed. That was weird, Clem muttered to herself as she entered the tent. A dozen beds surrounded her on either side. As she walked, she was startled by a pain moan coming from an occupied bed on her left. A bearded man was lying on it, his glasses askew and his hands clutching a pulsing bite mark on his right calf. Take it off, he kept screaming, his eyes watering. At this point it's too late, Mark, the doctor beside him said, closing his eyes. Please, you have to try, the man pleaded. Clementine didn't hear the rest of the conversation as she spotted Eleanor standing beside an empty bed and went to her. The older woman lifted her head from some paperwork and smiled at Clem. Hey there, she said, putting down a clipboard. What brings you here? Hesitant, Clem shuffled her feet. She debated whether or not to tell her about the condition. I think I may have a stomach bug, she lied. Nodding, the doctor patted the bed beside her and adjusted her coat. She rummaged through a plastic box of supplies and took out several medical objects. Clem sat down, fidgeting with her fingers. Around them, doctors and patients alike roamed the aisle. She heard soft sobs coming from them. She spotted the same gray-eyed woman from before talking to a nearby nurse. Her wavy black hair flowed down her shoulders, its tips caressing the hem of her patterned flannel shirt. Clem was brought back from her thoughts by Eleanor asking her to open her mouth. She did as the doctor asked, and Eleanor gently placed a wooden stick on her tongue, examining the inside of her mouth. Nothing out of the ordinary, she muttered, squinting. Aside from poorly kept teeth, she added with a chuckle. Who's had time to brush their teeth these days? Clem asked, rhetorically shrugging. Good point, conceded Eleanor. She placed the wooden stick on the tray, lifting Clem's shirt from the back and grabbing the stethoscope from her neck. This might be cold. Sure enough, when the metal surface made contact with Clementine's skin, a chill went up her spine. She breathed in and out deeply at Eleanor's commands. The older woman walked around the bed and stood in front of her, repeating the procedure on her chest. She placed a soft hand on Clementine's forehead, lifting a few stray hairs that flowed from under the woman's hat. How long have you been feeling this way? She asked, raising an eyebrow. A couple of days, Clem assured her, nodding. It's probably just a reaction to a food I had, she speculated. Could be, Eleanor conceded, raising an eyebrow at her. Well, you don't have a fever as far as I can tell. Take it easy for a couple of days and come back if you're still feeling under the weather by then. Thanks, Eleanor, Clem said, standing up and pulling down her shirt. No problem, the woman smiled at Clem. So how are you and your husband adjusting to life in Richmond? She asked. We're doing just fine, Clem suggested. Gabe's been teaching Louis to shoot, actually. Yeah, so I heard from Javi. So how did you guys meet? Clementine leaned against the bed and crossed her arms, looking down. AJ and I were in a car crash 5 years ago, and his group saved us. We started dating not long after that. Love at first sight? Eleanor inquired, grinning. You could say that, conceded Clem. We decided to get married about 2 months ago. It was a very improvised thing, really. Nodding, Eleanor finished jotting down notes on her clipboard. She reminded Clementine of the precautions she ought to take and excused herself to go check on the other patient. The pregnant woman took her leave. She realized that the bitten man had been transported out of the tent at one point during her checkup. As she exited the tent, she started walking toward the batting cages again. She barely made it 3 steps before her head started spinning, however. Leaning against a pole, she closed her eyes and unsuccessfully willed the dizziness to go away. When it eventually did, Clem swayed on the spot. The sun was about to set on the horizon, casting a deep orange hue on the surrounding buildings. Most of the people outside were lazily leaning on sidewalks and talking amongst themselves. The world around her kept spinning, and she lost her footing. Clem almost collapsed, but was caught by a pair of strong arms. Whoa there, you fainted straight into my arms. Louis broke down through her thoughts. His toothy grin flashing from above her. You know, if you wanted my attention, you didn't have to go to such extremes, he added cheekily. Clementine rubbed her eyes and pulled her away from him, a slight grin on her face. Who said I was trying to get your attention? She teased, pretending to look anywhere but him. Louis crossed his arms and chuckled. Well played, Everett. I was just looking for you, actually. You were? Javi told me about the St. Patrick's party a couple of days from now, he told her, taking her hand. I wanted to know if you'd like to go. It would be a good place to meet some of our neighbors for the next 7 months. A couple started walking in the direction from the admin building. They're throwing parties? She asked incredulously. Apparently they're doing a couple a year to keep morale high and tensions low, he explained with a shrug. When they got to the building, he opened the door for her and walked in after her. They made their way to their room, absently talking about Louis's practice with Javier. As Clementine walked in, she spotted AJ at the desk. And this is where we'll stop for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 of Whisper the Wolf Reads, Chapter 6 of The Walking Dead.